Childs, our hearts are missing you here in the studio, but we know how much fun you're having out there. I keep seeing you behind the scenes digging holes and enjoying all that snow. So a lot of it.
Oh, you bet.
89.7 inches. Historic inches of snow. And you're now in the top 3 ever in Boston. And it's a wild type of a situation for meteorologists to study. Our own Jim Cantori wrote a column in this morning's Boston Herald, which he points out the relative warmth of the Atlantic Ocean. This is what he writes. He says that the warm water means that you can add more fuel to the storm. It is a small player, but it is a factor. So Dr. Marshall Shepard joins us now to kind of talk about this. And we have seen this historic snow season. And if you look at all of the top seasons in Boston, they've all happened in the last 20 years.
Right.
What does that warm water have to do with this?
Yeah, and the third snowiest on record right now, and it's still tallying up. It's counterintuitive for people to think about climate warming and snowstorms, but really in a warmer climate system, the atmosphere can hold more water. We think about this in the summertime, it's more humid.
Right.
And so that's really what's at play here in the warmer ocean waters. And by the way, most of the climate warming is in the ocean anyhow, and so that's really the fuel supply at times for storms like hurricanes, but they also provide differences in temperature that these storms, these big mid-latitude storms, can get fuel from as well. The other point, Kate, that I really want to emphasize here is also we're in a stuck weather pattern right now. We've got a trough in the east, a ridge in the west, and drought, and that can actually be linked to climate change as well. However, the jury's still out on that.
Okay.
And the last point I really want to quickly get to, sea level is higher because of climate change. We can definitely pinpoint that. And so with storms like this, the flooding in the coast is a big concern.
Right. This one we didn't see quite as much of the flooding that we saw with Juno. But Juno was a major player with storm surge. We saw it come up, and that's not something that people always associate with winter storms. Do you think that we can expect to see more of that as we go forward in the future?
I think we can pinpoint higher sea level on warming climate. I don't like to pinpoint causation of one particular storm to climate. I think we have to be careful there. But there is higher sea level, and that's related to climate warming. So when we have big storms like this, or we saw it also with Superstorm Sandy, that's a flooding hazard. And so it's just a part of the mix, and I applaud Jim for writing that. There's actually even some scientific studies out of MIT suggesting that in a warmer climate, we'll see less snow, but perhaps the larger big blizzard type storms may not slack off as much.
And that's because we've got that ripe fuel, going right into them. So do you think that this storm that we're seeing right now, had it been 50 years ago, you know, 100 years ago, would it have been as strong as it is? And we've seen the snow totals that we're seeing now.
You know, I just think it's not, I think the jury's still out. I think it's plausible, but I think it is pushing more sea level in terms of the coastal flooding. I think the atmosphere is holding more water vapor. As we get warm, 1 degree, we can, hold for every 1 degree a certain amount more water vapor. Water vapor is the fuel supply. It's counterintuitive. I often say weather is your mood, climate is your personality, because people attribute a one-day snowstorm and say, what do you mean climate warming? You can't do that. You just can't do that type of thing, but we know that there is a plausible link in terms of the science between more water vapor and warmer climate. So
what does that mean for the people that are sitting at home right now and they're listening and they're watching this epic snowstorm and these epic snowstorms happen? What does the climate change and the warmer water temperatures mean for them?
Sure. Well, again, couple of points to kind of wrap this. Most of the climate warming is in the ocean. That warming is going to come to the atmosphere at some point through hurricanes, the fueling of storms. Also, the melting in the Arctic region may be causing something called Arctic amplification. That's a big fancy term. All it really means is these wet jet stream patterns are getting stuck. So places in the west like California are getting warm, dry conditions, and we're seeing stormier conditions in the east. Whether that's linked to climate change, I think we'll know soon, but the National Academies of Science has done research that suggests that it may be.
So that's something that have you done personally? You have obviously dove into a little bit. Now, I've seen you out at the AMS conferences, of course. As a former president, you're at the American Meteorological Society meetings. Is there a lot of research that you're finding coming out at those meetings and these gatherings of minds? Yeah, go Google. As you're sitting there, particularly if you're in the Northeast and you're probably snowed in today, pull up Google and Google the National Academy of Sciences and something called effects of the Arctic on mid-latitude cyclones. Again, big fancy words. All that means is there are a lot of scientists trying to understand the